Coffee Hour with Clue, and we are going to go over number one, setting yourself up for success, and having the right implements available, anticipating the training scenario, all the things that can happen, and being ready to make timely corrections such that we can maintain our training. So we're going to start our day with the e-collar on. Put the dog over, have his overnight area, whether it's a crate or in your bedroom, wherever he's going to stay. Have your e-collar charged in that area so you can access it right away when you get up in the morning. Collar goes on him during the day, make sure it's turned on. And the collar goes off of him at night. We can't leave it on him for 24 hours because it'll cause a rash. By having it on the dog all day, it will not give him the opportunity to make an association with it either being on or off. You'll always have the ability to make a timely correction, and therefore you're going to have perfect training with him from the time he gets up to the time he goes to bed. So right off the bat, anytime you take him out, whether you're taking him out of a crate in your house or taking him out of a crate in out of your car in a new place, we always have the dog stay in the crate till we release him. So we can either say his name to release him out of the crate, or we can say the word H-E-E-L. As soon as he touches the ground, as soon as he's outside of that crate, we're going to say sit. We're going to have our collar set at the higher setting, which is probably somewhere around 11 on this. And remember, you can change this based on the results you're getting, but it should be at a level that will set precedent with the dog. We're going to keep it simple until we get the dog calm. So we're just going to have him do what we call a sit stay. The command is sit. The hand signal is up like this. If he moves at all, if he jostles around like this, if he's moving his front feet excessively, we can give him a sit neck. And again, give him a treat when he calms down. Now notice, if we do use treats, and you don't have to use treats every time, if you use a treat for a sit, you're going to bring it up like this. If he jumps prematurely, it would be sit neck. Okay? If he stays nicely, you can bring it down like that. Let's talk about physically putting the e-collar on. Kind of jump the step there. When you're putting the e-collar on, you're going to do something called calm to touch. Calm to touch. And we achieve this by putting one hand over the muzzle and the other hand either around the scruff or the neck or over his collar. We're going to use this when he physically needs to calm down. If he tries to move excessively or wiggles his head around when we do it, we're going to use a pressure on, pressure off. So we're literally going to squeeze with this hand on his muzzle. And then we're also going to kind of torque down here on this top part of his nose at the same time. It'll make it more effective. And then immediately relax. As soon as we feel the dog relax, we're going to relax. And we're going to keep that hand on until he relaxes for about 5 or 6 seconds. And then we can go right on to doing what we were doing. We put the e-collar on, we're going to put it up towards the top of his head, top of his neck, I should say, like this. We're going to set it such that we can get about 2 fingers comfortably under the collar. Just like that. The main thing is just use logic. Put your fingers down where the prongs are, and if you can feel that they're definitely contacting his skin, then you've got it. The neck gets thicker as it goes down. So if you get it tight enough on the top portion of his neck near his head, there's no way that it can get too loose. Sit. Okay, so assuming you've got your collar on, you work on a little sit stay until not only he's sitting, but he's calm. You can give him a few treats. Good. Now, use logic. In the morning when you get him up, if he's got to go to the bathroom, don't spend 2 hours doing this. Get him to sit quickly, move him out the house, make him sit quickly at the door, and then release him out of the yard so he can go to the bathroom. Otherwise, if he's already aired out and you're about going to work him, you can work on as much composure and different lengths of time as you possibly want on this sit stay. So it's a great tool. Work on it in many different places. When you get him home, I want you to work him in all the different parts of your home and your yard that he's going to live. So you're going to do a little bit of each different training element, the sit, the walking heel, the recall, in each different yard and in each different room. You're not going to overdo it. You're going to do it just enough, make enough corrections to get a success on each one of these, give them a treat, and then move on to the next yard. It's basically communicating with the dog and telling him that everything that you did here is going to go at home as well. Okay, so now we're going to go over this portion of the video is just to go over literally the big 3 obedience commands, what the commands are, what the reinforcements are if the dog does or does not perform the command, and how to get through it and use these different commands and responses in your day-to-day life. So, starting with sit, stay. The word sit means to stay. So all we have to do is say the word sit. The hand signal looks like this. You can use either hand for it. One hand extended out like this, showing the palm of the hand. Sit. Positive reinforcement would be to bring the treat up like this. If he jumps, sit, nick. Okay, and you take the treat away. If he stays nice and calm, give him the treat just like that. Sit. Whistle signal for sit is 1 toot. Sit. Good. Okay, once you say sit, he's supposed to stay in position. So if you need to make a sit correction, make it quickly. Don't wait until he's 10, 20, 30 feet away from where he started. So if he starts getting up prematurely, it would look like this. Sit, nick. If you hear me say nick, I'm saying that when I would actually touch the collar so you understand the timing. Now I'm going to walk him at heel. So the second command of the big 3 is the word H-E-E-L. He needs to stay next to me as I walk when I give him this command. That's the main function. The dog stays on my left side and focuses on me. I'm going to take off with my left foot and I'm going to move my left hand like this. And then in the whistle signal, if I wanted to use whistle, which I don't have to, would be multiple toots. It looks like this. Heel. Good. Good boy. When he's walking nicely with me, I praise him. If he takes his eye off me and loses his focus, I'm simply going to rapidly turn away, say heel and nick all at the same time. When he catches back up, I praise him and I give him a treat. So what he's learning here is that if he keeps his focus on me, then everything's great. Good boy. If he takes his focus off of me, he gets a nick. And then once he refocuses and gets to the correct place, I go back to praising him. Okay? And I'm only going to make a correction on any of these maneuvers if the dog fails. I'm not going to deliberately run in and try to start making corrections if the dog does everything right. Okay, so the main function of heeling is staying next to your side, and the main correction if he fails is to turn away, say heel and nick. Now, this is a finer adjustment tool that you can use while you're heeling. It's called an inside turn. When I use the inside turn, I'm going to use it if the dog is primarily focused on me, but he's pushing in, so he's getting like this in front of me a little bit. I'm going to literally stop my motion, turn into him rapidly, nick the collar, and sweep my left hand back. So essentially what this dog is learning is that if for some reason he gets in front of me, that's the no-no zone, okay, and he'll flare back, heel. So if you're noticing everything's going really well with your heeling, but he's just getting a little bit too far forward and you're kind of running into him, then nick, turn, just like that. And then continue on. Once he makes it all the way back, here like this, you can continue moving. The honest truth of it is you could go the rest of your life and never use that correction. It's just a fine adjustment tool. I probably wouldn't even play with that until you've got a good solid grasp of the rest of these tools. Now we're going to work on recalls. So with recall, the dog must be away from us. It's where we call the dog in from a distance. If I have been walking at heel and the dog has just nicely sat next to my side, I need to get away from him if I expect to call him. So in order to do that, I'm going to say sit. I'm going to step out with my outside foot. When I want to leave the dog on the sit command, I say sit. I step out with my outside foot. You notice my outside hand is giving him the first signal, then my outside foot steps out, and then I go. Also notice that I'm kind of facing the dog as I walk away. Facing the dog so I can see if he breaks. Okay? I'll have my transmitter in my hand. So if he did break at this point, sit, nick. And then I'd always start over. Good boy. If you have a failure and you use the e-collar with a correction, you always stop, rewind, and do exactly the same thing that the dog failed on, get a success, give him positive reinforcement, and then continue on. So if you think about it as you're working and doing this work and you make a correction, what did he get a correction for? How can I set him up again to do it and get a success? If you always finish with a success, the dog's always going to remember that, and then it'll be more successful the next time. Sit. Going back to the with the outside foot, outside hand, watching the dog. If he doesn't look at you, so I'm just going to take my hat off and throw it so he's not looking at me. We're going to work on something called sit to look. So when he is sitting, he's also supposed to be looking at us. So if he looks away, I'll say sit. Sit. Now right there, that second time, I gave a sit nick. And you notice I kind of went like this. As soon as he looked at me, I went like this and I got his attention. Good. So if you're going to recall your dog and he's not looking at you, sit. You can say sit. Good. If he looks at you, go ahead and call him. If not, sit, Nick. Good. Here I made that little noise to get his attention. If he didn't look and I had to make a sit to look correction, I walk up and give him a treat. All this does is reinforce the fact that him looking at me when I say that word SIT is essential, and that he will get rewarded if he doesn't. He will get punished if he doesn't. Now let's go to the actual recall. Sit. He's looking at me, so now I can call him. Heel. Good. Okay, so let's talk about perfect form on the recall. You notice that I am not bending down. Okay, I'm not doing this. I'm standing up. And when he gets there, I'm going to have my left hand was actually going to go up a little bit. Sit. I'm not going to leave my left hand droop down like that, because if I do, I'm probably drooping my hand. So you notice he comes back and my left hand comes up. Now you notice he jumped for that treat. Sit. At any point, if he jumps anywhere, whether it's jumping on me, another person, on the counter, a rapid SIT nick is appropriate. Heel. Nick. Okay? And trust me, he's had it enough down there, he's going to understand it. A lot of times, though, you won't catch him when he does it the first time. But use the fool me once concept, right? Be ready for it the next time. Heel. Good boy. No, I didn't, because he started to jump and he second guessed it. Now this time I'm going to be, if he does it again just like that, I'm going to nick him. Heel. Sit. Not going to give him the treat that time. Heel. There you go. Sit. Yeah, he's been through the correction. Now, the most fine maneuver is going to be the recall with the remote sit. The recall with the remote sit. That's where we call him and we stop him in the middle. Again, this one is not that necessary. If you never use this from the time that you're bringing him now to the time I see him next time, I'd be happy with it. If you did it and you missed and you did it wrong, that would be bad. So here's what you do. You call him heel, sit. And right in the middle, you tell him to sit. Now your hand signals are so essential at this point. The dog is focused on that left hand. So you notice when I call him, first of all, I drop my hand quickly when I say H-E-E-L. And then when I tell him sit, my hand goes rapidly back up to the sit position. Heel, sit. Good boy. Now, Dan does it. However, sometimes the dog won't sit properly. So you must be prepared to give a very rapid sit nick if he doesn't stop very quickly. Okay? Heel, sit, nick. That's how fast. Did you hear that? Hope the camera caught it. That's how fast I will recognize that I'm not getting a sit, and I will give the correction. Heel. Okay? Now, for every time that you do that maneuver, okay, and doing the maneuver is just fine, but for every time you do that maneuver, you must do at least 2 times that many full recalls, or you might get him thinking that he has to stop everything on the way back from a recall. Very good, buddy. Sit. Good. Now we're going to put everything together with the whistles. Good. Now you noticed earlier when I did the first attempt at this recall and remote sit, when I stopped him in the middle, I walked up and gave him a treat for sitting. I would say that probably 50% of the time that you need to do that. So 50% of the time that you do the recall, the remote sit, you should actually give him a treat as he sits there in the middle. Just think about it this way. You want to give the dog positive reinforcement for exactly what you're trying to get him to do. So in other words, there he sat beautifully right in the middle of a recall, and I wanted to work on that. He did it right, so I rewarded him with the sit, treat. I rewarded him with positive reinforcement with the treat right as he had committed to doing it right. Good boy. Good boy. Sit. Good. I'm going to show you something else that's going to be incredibly useful for you. When I'm at home with my dogs, I do this all the time. I want them to learn that I am the leader of the operation, that when I touch them, they must be calm. I showed you this function, but you're also going to use it in other venues. For instance, like if you picked him up. Same thing like when he was a puppy, you remember pressure on, pressure off here. You can also immediately go into that function like this. So what I would do is occasionally, I would never let him just jump up on a chair or on my lap, but occasionally I'll pick him up and I'll literally make him sit. Now I have zero pressure on him right now, none, okay? But if he started to move and get crazy, squeeze, and you notice I'm pulling back a little and squeezing and then immediately relax. And once he's relaxed, I can scratch him, I can love him up, and what he'll learn is if he's relaxed in my arms like this, everything's wonderful. You can scratch his ears, but at the same time, so they love doing it, but at the same time they're learning, hey, this guy's the absolute leader. I need to trust him physically. If he puts his hands on me, I must relax. It always works. If I get wild and wiggle, it never works. Good. It's a really, really great bond building exercise with your dog. Good boy. Good. Okay, so if somebody was to walk up or there was a distraction and he flailed his head right back into it, no, and then relax. Good. And then when he relaxes, I relax all my muscles, and he can feel that. Good boy. Good. And see, he's giving me what I call a soft eye right now. If you get a close-up of that, John. No. Okay. I just squeezed him because he wanted to just get up and run over by John. That's the soft eye. Okay. That's a submissive gesture, and he's saying that I'm the boss. You see how this part of his eye comes up, kind of like his eyebrows are coming up. He's saying I'm the boss. And if you can get him to this point on a day-to-day basis, good. Good. You're constantly reminding him that you are the leader of the operation. Good. And then you're always going to reward him. You know, whether you give him a treat or sit, you can give him some sort of sit activity positive reinforcement. So let's just say that you got him calmed down. Clue. You can release him and let him run. Heel. Well, if you're going to retrieve it, you got to do it right. Sit. Out. Good boy. Okay. Why don't you kill that video, and we're going to